There she blows. So I will now take us over to the Becoming Unstuck presentation. So you'll only see us little in the corner. Um, if you can't see something or you get stuck technologically, just unmute yourself and shout or put it in the chat. Okay. Right,
Excellent.
sometimes I
There
have
we
to
go.
go round the houses. Has it not shared?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, okay. It likes to do this. You have to cajole it into sharing, I find this. Very much like horsemanship. That time?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, so I will just keep letting people in. Um, and I'll just hand over to Di then to do the introduction whilst I keep doing the door opening on the other side.
Okay, great. Well, hello everybody. I would say it's really nice to see everybody. When I was swiping across before the presentation came up, it was really nice to see everybody. So some familiar faces, which is always good, and some new faces too. As Kate says, what we're going to do today is take you through some slides. There's a couple of places where we're going to ask you to do
Oh,
a.
sorry,
Oh.
it's because I'm trying to admit people.
Where we're going to ask you to do a tiny task or two. If you have a pen, that would be great.
Do you know what,
Um,
Di? I because I'm having some trouble admitting people, I'm just going to come out of this for a second, and I'm
okay.
going to assign.
Shall I just carry on
No, I'm going to
it's
assign a
not
kindly
chaos
soul, and
behind
I'm going to
you?
make that kindly soul Sheila Ogilvy because I think you were there, Sheila. Is that right? Is she there? Sheila, can you pipe up if you are there? Can you unmute yourself? I know you were. I know you were there early doors. Don't tell me you've gone off and gone to the pub now.
She's gone for a second glass of wine.
Yeah,
Find her
she has.
there.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would feel happy to be a co-host so that you could let people in once I start screen sharing? Because it just
I
makes it.
will, Kate. I'm happy to do that.
Who's that? Sorry, I can't see
That's
anything.
Sally Ann.
Diane.
Sally Ann, thank you very much, Sally Ann. That is marvelous.
Okay, yeah, so as I was saying, we have got a presentation to go through, and the reason we've got a presentation to go through is that we really want to share with you some of the thinking, some of the ideas that sit behind the Becoming Unstuck course, um, and some of the sort of headlines and hopefully, some really helpful hints and tips and pieces of advice and pieces of learning. Nobody wants to sit through, an hour plus of sales pitch, and that is not what we're intending to do. Um, if you have a pen or you can get hold of a pen, that would be great because there's one or two little things that we want to cover with you that we hope will be helpful. And of course, it goes without saying that, we're running a 10-week course, hopefully starting in February. And so we're not going to be able to cover everything that's in there. Um, but we are hoping to cover some of the really sort of helpful stuff and some of the headlines and some of the stuff that when we ran the program before last year, people found really, really helpful. So that's what we're going to do, and then we'll tell you at the end a little bit more about the course itself. But we are hoping to just get stuck into some content and some ideas. Um, we don't know really how many people we might end up with and how interactive we're going to be able to be, but we would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. The extent to which we will be able to sort of, pull stuff out and have chats through the session is well, let's see how we get on. But please put stuff in anyway if you've got questions, if you've got thoughts. And if we don't get to them, we will sort of collate them and have a look at them later and maybe be able to put some reflections out um, on some of the stuff that came out because we're on a learning journey about this stuff as well, and we're a little bit overexcited about it. So we'd be really keen to just hear where you're coming from as well as you listen to some of the stuff that we've got to share with you. Okay. So it sort of makes sense that we start with who we are. I guess many more people here will know Kate than me. You will be pleased to know from that photograph of me on the left-hand side that I am not here for my horsemanship and riding skills. Um, and really, I wanted to just say a little bit about who I am. I That is me and my lovely horse Desi. My name's Neale. Uh, about 25 years ago, I started my career in leadership development work. I'd done sort of 10 years as a manager and a change manager person in public services. And I started to specialize in helping people to learn about leading system change and leading in really complex scenarios. You know, how do you enable complex living systems to change? How can you tackle really big, complex problems like social isolation, like obesity, like children with special educational needs if you're working across multiple organizations and you know tens and hundreds of senior leaders. So that was sort of the space that I've operated in probably for the last 25 years, looking and working with complex living systems and how to change them. And then about 20 years ago, I trained, qualified, and started working as a coach because it had become clear to me that who you are and how you show up in these situations really matters, and how you can become and be the best version of yourself and continue to grow and develop through your adulthood became something I became quite focused on and specialized in, mainly working with senior leaders and politicians for my sins. And and then in a huge plot twist, 17 years ago, I decided to follow my dream of having horses, thinking it was a completely different journey to the one that I was on. And found so many similarities, so many read across from how I was trying to work with people in organizations and how I tried to teach and develop myself to show up and be the person my horse needed me to be. And I sort of went from being very novice to slightly less novice now. But I've been struck through those 17 years of just how many similarities and connections there are between leading people and organizations in complexity and showing up and working with and helping my horses to become and grow. So I then met Kate, oh God, about 10 years ago? No, it's probably more, maybe. And we started a conversation then that has sort of led us to here. So I guess sort of in summary, my superpowers, I guess, that I would bring to this are growing up for grown-ups, coaching as a development and change journey for people, and working with complex challenges rather than pretending they're simple, which is what a lot of people do.
Thank you.
Kate.
Thank you, Di. I won't spend too long on this. I think there's quite a lot of you that I've worked with in person, which is lovely, and some of you that I've met virtually. Obviously, the main reason that I'm here is because of my love of horses and also my love of working with people and horses. And I have a background a bit in education and mental health services as well. But it probably was longer than a decade ago, Di, where Di and I had a conversation about her work because I'd come across kind of systems leadership work and so on in my former life in commissioning children's services. And I'd never heard anybody talk about it the way that Di did, where she described human systems, or in this case, we're talking about two systems coming together, a horse and a person, being more like a tree than a machine. And yet we talk about them like they're machines all the time, that things have pulleys and levers and you can push buttons and things happen. And she was like, it doesn't work like that. Actually, we're more like trees where things grow organically and there is chaos in there as well. And for the first time, I was like, oh, this is somebody I'd be very interested in working with around systems leadership. But where we have had many conversations over the years has actually been about our great love, which is horses. And my feeling that in the equestrian industry, as an instructor, you are taught how to give advice and information about the horse, but you are given very little, if no, input in how you work with the human side of the equation. So maybe if you're lucky, you get some good mentors around you or get some good examples, but many of us don't. So when Di and I started probably about 3 or 4 years ago talking about, I wonder if there's a way that we could bring the idea of coaching, learning to coach ourselves, as Di said, I love that expression, growing up for grown-ups, into the work with horses, I felt very excited about it. So I am part of the Becoming Unstuck team, which focuses more on the horse side of things, but not that's the wrong angle for shoulder in, or you really need to think about neck extension. In this context, it's a different way of thinking about how I might support you to interact with your horses. Anything you want to add, Di, before I go on?
No, that's good. So we wanted to start by asking you, as we start to blather on about stuckness, what brought you here today? Why have you chosen to spend your time on this call, in this conversation this evening? Um, and any answer or no answer is fine. We're just nosy. It might be that you like free stuff, don't we all? So let's just dip a toe and see if this is interesting. You might be mildly interested, you might be massively interested. You might feel stuck. You might not really feel stuck, but be aware that there is some stuckness that's around. You might know a friend who feels a bit stuck. Um, And what we have found about stuckness, and we're going to talk a bit more about stuckness and then go on to how to unstick yourself and stay unstuck. Um, it isn't always an inability to move.
Oh, sorry.
Um, it's all
Sorry.
right. Oh,
This is
you
the
can't help yourself, can you?
No, it's the dream of Cam. It's a very annoying thing about Canva that I should probably, it won't let you go back. Come on now. Come on now. Be kind. Right, there we
Put three.
go.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people have said to us, I didn't really think I was stuck because I was doing lots of stuff. But it could be that you sense more of a limitation, or that maybe you're just up against a bit of a boundary in your life with your horses. Or it may be that you don't feel stuck at all, but you're just sort of quite interested in the concept. And it does look like different things to different people. And even if it looks like the same thing in different people, often the underlying causes and the story of how people got to here is very different and therefore requires very different solutions. So the whole idea of what we're trying to bring is developing our ability to recognize the nature of our stuckness and see how we can go on a journey of unraveling it and seeing what we can do to free it up.
So would you like people in the chat to put in their,
Yeah, that's great. People are
yeah,
starting to put stuff in there. Yeah,
brilliant.
so mental people, yeah, mental stuckness, interesting in the approach. Yeah, thanks,
Worried about
Josie.
cocking it up. That's a classic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Catherine, when you get a new horse, and I've certainly been there, I wasn't stuck with one horse, and I got a new horse and discovered it was nothing the same as the other one, even though it was a half brother. And then I thought I didn't have any of the stuff that I had before.
Someone said I like the
Right.
idea of becoming able to coach myself because I don't do anything much without an instructor there.
Yeah.
I don't think
Excellent.
I don't think I'm
Just
stuck, but there are limitations internally and externally. No one to support on a daily basis. Paralysis by analysis,
Oh
limited.
wow, we've tapped a deep vein here.
Yeah, we have.
Excellent.
Sarah,
There's so
let's
much
talk
here. We're
about
going to have to really look at these when we've got a bit more
real.
time as we go along. Thank you so much.
They're great, aren't they?
They're really good.
Make
They're
excuses
really
not to do
good.
stuff. I think you will find if you yourselves get time to look that there are themes that come up that you are rarely alone.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Shall we move on, Kate?
Okay, we may move on or we may move backwards because it's like a changeable feast. Okay, so um, in light of what you've just been saying in the chat, and like I said, you might get a chance to have a look at these.
Mm,
Di asked me if I could come up with some archetypes of stuckness, so some um, well recognized themes across humans that I work with. And I've also had lots of conversations with fellow instructors, whether they're leisure day instructors or different, or teaching different things, to see is this just me that feels like I can't help people in a way that I would like to. And the same themes come up time and time again. And like I said, if you get a chance to look in the chat, you'll see that many of these archetypes, ways, and it's a grand term for me saying these are um, common conversations that I have with people or conversations that I don't have with people, but that you're aware that that's what's going on. So some of you will very much recognize this about yourself, or you might not yet, that, or you might recognize it about somebody else, whatever. But um, it's really common to have a conversation with somebody. And the first post that I wrote about this was the regularity with which people say to me, I haven't done anything since I saw you in the last lesson. And, right now, I'm I do understand that if you don't live in France, the weather isn't the most forgiving. So, it's been very icy, all of those things. But when it happens again and again and again, oh, there's something going on here for this person that isn't just the ostensible reason that's being given of what reason has occurred this time that's meant that I haven't been able to do anything. That I don't want to make a mistake one is really, really common. And I think it's heightened for compassionate, empathetic horse riders because they don't want to do wrong by their horse. In most other art, science, sports, whatever you want to call what we do, you at worst are gonna break your bike and have to get a new frame or sit on your paint box by mistake or um bugger yourself up when you go down a ski slope. We are in a team sport game, and we're in an art that is bringing in another sentient being that didn't necessarily ask to be there. And I think most of us here are aware of that. So that really can heighten for us this, I don't want to get it wrong. The silver bullet seeker is another well-known archetype. I'm just looking for the thing. What's the thing that if I can find it, that'll be the answer? Um, I wrote about this one recently as well, taking instruction as criticism, and this is really common, and we all understand why. And I think for a lot of us, it's maybe the way that we were educated, which is about getting things right. The people who do well are the people who get things right, and you don't want to get things wrong. You may have grown up in a situation where getting things wrong wasn't okay. Who knows? But as an instructor, that is quite a barrier that comes down when people immediately can say things like, I know, when you tell them, that kind of stuff. And so it leaves me a bit flawed as to, okay, I'm not quite sure where to go from here because I'm trying to point out some things that I think could be better, but what they're being taken as is I'm doing badly. A lot of us might find ourselves in a position where we're particularly in situations with instructors waiting to be told what to do. And then we can find ourselves when without an instructor, and then when there's nobody to tell us what to do, not knowing what to do. That's again, a paradigm of learning that many of us have grown up in. The person at the front tells you what to do, and then you parrot it. It's why I did very well at university, because I could remember stuff, not because I knew stuff. Change the horse, change the trainer, change the bit is the person that you meet who is going around a carousel of different things that they are changing, with the common denominator, very much like my dating history I've now uncovered for myself, is me. So, that's maybe I had something to do with this. And one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is that really often in situations like that, you need a kind, supportive, safe space which enables you to see that, because those things can be very difficult to see for yourself. As Di alluded to earlier, sometimes we might not think of ourselves as stuck all the time because we are doing loads. We're working with our horses all the time. We're very busy. We're going to loads of clinics. We're taking loads of instruction. We're doing lots of courses. And yet, if we actually stood back and got out of the kind of hamster wheel of it all, we realize, but I think I'm still not really understanding which path I'm trying to follow or what it is that I really want to be doing. This one down in the left-hand corner, keeping everybody else happy but compromising myself. I think it's mostly women on this call, maybe not all, but many of us, particularly at particular times of our lives, find ourselves in situations where even our horse life is being dictated by other people. We can find ourselves in situations where we think, I wouldn't really have chosen any of this, but it is keeping other people happy. That is something that I also bump up against, and that can be really tricky for people. In the world of social media, this one, the mashup syndrome, there are so many opportunities out there for us, so many. I am really, even as, I'm fairly sure about the path that I'm taking. I've got, a couple of lines of inquiry that I follow with my horses. But I would like to not be on Facebook so much because of the deluge of, but what about this? But have you tried this? You're not looking at this. And so I can go to teach somebody who might show me 5 or 6 different things that they're trying that come from different trainers, different online courses, different sources, which has none of them in it. And they're really not sure what it is that they should be doing. And as most of us know, horses aren't big on confusion. But we can find ourselves where we are so unsure of which mast to pin our flag to, that we just put everything in the box and hope that something comes out. And just to say, there's no hierarchical order around any of these. I've just put them on the page in random order. But finally, looking at what somebody else is doing and thinking, if I just do that, it'll work out for me. And as we're going to keep coming back to during the course of this evening, and if you should join us on the course, the reason that we are more like trees than machines is because nobody's the same. We are snowflakes, whether you're in that generation or not, because we are all individual. And one person's blueprint almost will never work for somebody else. Right, let's see what happens now. Oop, no, see, this is the thing. You just dart backwards and forwards in Canva. Okay, so Di said this to me on a WhatsApp call, and I was like, Di, that is a stroke of genius. You might remember one of the archetypes that I mentioned was the person who's looking for the silver bullet. What's the answer? Just tell me the answer. And the truth is that there isn't one. So if you are allowed to exit stage left now, if you had hoped that this evening we were going to say, ta-da!
Yeah, we can save you an hour.
Yeah, exactly. You can go to the pub now. And the answer is because rather than thinking that there's a silver bullet, Di came up with this wonderful analogy, although I kept them going, what is it? Silvermanship. And a silversmith, that you need to, or you may want to, develop your talents as a silversmith. So you become the craftsperson who practices and develops your own artistry. And if you think about the people, and we probably have all got different people in our minds who we do admire when it comes to horses, they almost always are their own versions of themselves. Even if they are within a tradition, they are a silversmith of horsemanship. And that's for me what's really exciting about this. And it's what I feel really passionate I would like to help people understand and become more of is is being able to draw upon your own understanding and gifts and competencies rather than waiting for which is the course that I'm going to sign up for that's going to give me the answer. Right, we'll just do this little dilly-dallying thing again. Oh no, look, there we go. And this one, I'm sure you've come across this very famous Mary Oliver quote. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? It never fails to get me, however many times I hear it. And it was because during the course of Di and I chatting about this, I listened to a podcast which had the lady whose name I can't remember. I'm very sorry, who wrote a book, The Five Regrets of the Dying. She was a palliative care nurse. And you've probably heard of them, they're very well understood. But there are people saying, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had lived the life that I really wanted to live. That one, that if you were to just take a minute and think about if I get to the end of my days and Di told me, he didn't tell me off, but he said the other day, you're always saying this, you might die any minute, which is what I say when I'm about to buy a new horse. That's why Di knows it well. Well, Di, you might die any minute. It's because my personal experience has been that a large percentage of my family did die very young. And it's interesting what that does to one's psyche in terms of, do I want to get to a point where I look back and think, damn it, I had all these gifts and opportunities and support networks and possibilities because what I really wanted to do was ride my horses or hand walk with my horses or be more with my horses. And for whatever reason, that is almost always much more internal than it is external, I didn't do it. So if you maybe come away with nothing from this evening, if you were to just spend a bit of time doing this, because the other thing she was talking about is that the human brain has a tendency to live for today and struggles to future predict, which is, I must put pension on my to-do list again, but it's the same. It's so I won't ride today because of all of those things we just talked about, and then another day has gone by. So yeah, if there is nothing else you bring from this, I think this is a powerful message to just sit with. So I'm just going to share two case studies of people who have interacted, one directly with the course, last year's Becoming Unstuck course, and one who is somebody that I work with face to face, but in maybe a bit more of a coaching role, because they may give you some pointers or some thoughts about yourself. So Fiona from Wales came on the Becoming Unstuck course last year, and her thing was, I'm just stuck because there are all these things I should be doing with my horses, and I'm not doing them. And I just need to get braver. I just need to put my big girl pants on. I just need to suck it up and get out there and do this stuff. And during the course of the 10 weeks, fairly early on, she started to reveal to us the things that she was expecting of herself and her horse. And we were all like, whoa, what? These are massive things. So fairly large and dramatic expectations for her and her horse, cantering downhill, going out on a horse she didn't know very well, up into the mountains, riding in amongst wild ponies that she didn't know. I mean, kind of absolutely achievable things to be thinking about that she definitely can still have in there as these are things that I want to do. But what she was doing was berating herself for not being brave enough for doing it, not being very kind to herself, actually. She's a competent rider, knows her stuff, but she was trying to make enormous leaps from where she was currently to where she'd like to be. And then each time that happened, kind of going from 0 to 10. I haven't really ridden this horse very much out of walk, but let's go cantering down a hill. And then, yeah, punishing herself or feeling ashamed of herself for thinking I actually found that quite nerve-wracking or I didn't really enjoy that. And what we worked through over the course of the 10 weeks is helping her to really understand how to just take her next best micro step from where she was. So, not to give up on these are the things I want to be doing with my horse, but rather to just leap straight from here to there and then wonder why you were feeling quite scared doing those things, because I would too. We really talked through, and that was where the support of the community, other people that you feel very safe with, who can help you through coaching, which, there are skills that you learn that mean you can coach other people and coach yourself, for her to have it revealed to her, oh, I just need to take smaller steps. I don't need to get brave. I just need to learn how to take graduated steps. And she came back recently into the group, which is still open, and talked about an experience with a new horse, saying, I am so delighted with myself because I felt my old habits starting to kick in of, okay, let's just go straight out there, and then reining herself back in and going, no, hang on a second. What is the next micro step that I need to take with this horse rather than taking these huge macro steps? And that knowledge that she acquired, nobody needed to step in and tell her that at that point. She had that awareness for herself then to be able to know, what are my tendencies? What are the habits that I've practiced many times that have become so familiar I don't notice them? Put the brakes on. Okay, think about what I learned about myself and then apply a different way of being. Is there anything you want to add to that, Di?
I think the only thing I would add is the difference between somebody from the outside being able to see something and tell you is a million miles away from being in a situation with a community of people who make you feel safe enough to explore some of that stuff. Because there's always a fear about, hang on, are you saying I need to do less? How am I going to get further if I'm doing less or I'm going slower? So there was something about the need for the community and just the people around her and her support network to be able to hear some of those things and be able to change them. So I think that was the only other thing I would add. But yeah.
Thank you, Di. And so then Mary from Devon is somebody that I have been working with in person for quite a long time, but very much in the instructor kind of role. So I'll tell you what to do. Your horse needs to have more bend on this circle. You need to ask for more impulsion in canter, that kind of style of teaching. And then we had a conversation. She was very brave and asked me, okay, look, this is what's going on in this particular situation that we were in. I actually wasn't teaching her in this situation, but she wasn't having a very easy time. And thinking about some of the things that I had learned from Di and from the Becoming Unstuck community last year, we had a conversation around, okay, this is quite a difficult experience you're having at the moment, but is there a truth in there? Is there anything in there that resonates to the little internal voice in you that you've maybe heard elsewhere, that it maybe is not the first time somebody said this to you, even if you're not enjoying the way it's being presented or the situation that you're in? Is there a truth that you could find in this that might help you? And I wasn't expecting what happened. So I've taught this person for a long time. She's a very good rider. Somebody I let ride my horses. She's pretty experienced, but she had kind of one way of being with horses, always this presentation. So if she met a horse that suited that presentation, happy days. Just so happened that the horse that she had acquired did not suit that presentation. And so they were bumping up against each other because she just kept turning up with, this is the version of me that I've got when I'm around horses. So after this quite difficult experience, when I said to her, what might be the truth in here? She went away and she said, I had hours of mucking out and, all the things that all of us horse people do to keep reflecting on that. And she thought the thing that I keep hearing from a variety of people is you are ineffective with horses. And how she understood that, and she understood it very well because she found it for herself, was I just keep presenting this one version. So I'm not being adaptable with horses. I'm not trying different ways of being with horses. And I'm particularly not trying different ways of being that might feel uncomfortable to me. The next time I saw her, as soon as she walked in the door, I thought, hey, up, what's gone on here? Uh, the relationship between her and her horse was completely different for the better. He was a reformed character. He'd really had it with people before, much happier, much clearer. She was presenting herself in a way to him that suited what he needed. And what I think she discovered for herself, I didn't give her any answers. As I said earlier, well, there wasn't a magic bullet. I just used some of the coaching skills that I had learned from Neale and the Becoming Unstuck group to ask some questions that she could then answer for herself and say, okay, I'm going to try a different way of being with a horse. That doesn't mean I have to be a different person. It doesn't mean I'm not okay as I am as a person. It just means maybe there are more options that I could test out. And it was marvelous to see the difference that it made. Okay, let's go to the next one. There you go, Daniel.
Okay, so we've talked up to now about, the nature of stuckness, the archetypes, how it feels in us, and thank you for sharing all of the stuff that's coming through on the chat. And the particular case studies that we've just had a little bit of a deep dive into. So we're going to go on to thinking about unsticking and becoming unstuck. And there's a couple of things we're going to do just quickly first. And the first thing is to say we need to be clear with ourselves that there is nothing wrong with us for being stuck. We're not broken. We're not less than anybody who's flying forward and doing everything that they want to do. We're us, we're where we are because we are. And one of the things that just feels really important in all of this work, and is really key in the science of growing up for grown-ups as well, is about just let's show ourselves kindness and grace, and let's not berate ourselves. We're here because we are, and we're stuck if we are because we are. And there's a story about getting to here. And what comes next in terms of the philosophy and the science of what we're offering is that it is a growth model. It's quite literally a growth model. It's not a deficit model. It doesn't start with the notion of there is something wrong with me because I'm doing this or I'm not doing that. So it's not a deficit, it's a growth model. It is simple, and it is also a lifetime's practice. So they're not the silver bullet, but the silversmithing applies here. So what I feel I need to do, and I've promised that I will do this in less than 3 minutes, but it'll take Kate that to get to the slide.
No,
And I'll
look, go
go
on.
keep going.
There. Yes.
Is
Okay, this is your 3-minute challenge.
This is
Okay,
my three
Daniel.
minute challenge.
Doo-doo,
I
doo-doo,
feel it's
doo-doo-doo-doo.
I feel it's important to not give anybody the idea that Kate and I have sat in a bar somewhere and just come up with this out of thin air. There is a psychological, scientific underpinning to everything that we bring into Unstuck around the sort of growing up for grown-ups, the adult development. So, 3 ideas in 3 minutes. The first idea is the concept that grown-ups can grow up, the concept of adult development. It used to be believed that, of course, children develop, children go through very obvious stages of development, not just getting physically bigger, but in terms of developing their capacities and their capabilities and their ways of understanding the world. But it used to be believed that once you've got to be an adolescent or a young adult, the actual development of your brain capacity came to an end. And it's a relatively young idea that adults can develop, that we can continue to grow into our potential and to our capacity to do hard things in the world. So that's a little bit like if, if back in the day, the idea of neuroplasticity didn't exist, did it? A brain grew and it just stayed the same. But now we know that it's plastic and you can change the neural pathways and grow new pathways and all sorts of wild and wonderful things can happen with the physicality of your brain. Well, this is the psychological dimension as well. And metaphorically, the adults grow up in two separate ways, two different ways. The first, so idea two, the idea of horizontal development. So the idea of horizontal development is that we we develop because we gather knowledge and skills, um, and we develop our talents, and therefore we pack more and more things into ourselves. And most training in organizations and most learning that we will all do is in this dimension. It's let's gather more skills, let's gather more knowledge, let's develop our talents. And that's great. And then there is vertical development. And this is where the babushka dolls come in, because the idea of vertical development answers the question, what happens when, despite all our skills and our knowledge, we're still not quite enough? We're not really grown up enough. Have you ever felt that I'm not really proper grown up yet? I don't really feel quite as grown up as I need to feel to be in this situation, that we're not quite enough to face the nature of the challenges that are facing us. So if you think about this idea of vertical development, this idea of adult development being one where we sort of become metaphorically bigger, we have even more capacity to use those skills in ever more sophisticated and nuanced ways. If you think about getting a bigger glass so that you can literally pour more stuff into it, if you think about upgrading your phone so that you now have a new shiny operating system that just has so much more capacity to manipulate all the data and all the stuff that's in there. So we can start off as the tiniest version of the babushka doll, and we can grow and develop our capacity to become more and become more in terms of probably these four things is a pretty good uh, set of headlines. You can grow your capacity to really understand what's going on in any situation in a much more nuanced and complex way. You can grow your capacity to just step back from your own soul perspective and take in so much more about what else is going on. You can grow your capacity to know how you can best show up in any different situation and have a range of versions of yourself to bring to that situation because that's what's required. And you can grow your capacity to respond to the complexity of all the dilemmas that are involved in all sorts of different challenges that we might face. So part of becoming unstuck is really about considering the possibility that we can become more as a way of finding our way through this.
I think that's
This
about
is,
5 minutes, Di.
yeah, all right, okay. This
Almost.
is a man's life's work.
Okay. What
So, so the first thing we're going to do then is to talk about developing this capacity to really understand what's going on. Is that right, Kate? Is that where we are now?
Yeah, we're on awareness. So yeah,
Okay.
how do if the one of the first things that we need to be able to do is become more aware ourself, our horses, life, what else is going on. And as Di said in that previous slide, being able to step back from the only perspective you've got at the moment. Um, to me, this is one of the most fundamental elements of this. And both of the case studies that I provided you with were really that person becoming more aware of the situation, their response to the situation, the story they've been telling themselves that wasn't necessarily true, and then they could then take a different step. So, which brings us to what might be some quite familiar models to you that we're just going to use in a slightly different way. So Di's just going to talk you through these in case you haven't come across these before.
So this is two versions of a model that's called Comfort, Stretch, Panic. I mean, I was taught and now no longer believe, but that's what I will share with you, that there are three places that we might be at any one moment. It's also been widely used with horses, I believe,
Yeah, it has, yeah.
about a way of helping people to understand where their horse might be. So I was originally taught that the comfort zone is where life feels predictable, where it's safe, it's essential for rest, but it is limiting if we stay there too long. You know, we don't want it. It's a bit boring and understimulating in the comfort zone. So you might want a bit of a lie down, a bit of a siesta, but it's not really where you can do anything much. And if you look at the graph on it's not really a graph, but the diagram on the bottom right-hand side, what that basically says is no learning happens in the comfort zone. So, you know, you're not really getting anywhere. Then there's the stretch zone, which is where learning, growth, and resilience take root. It's uncomfortable in there because it's all a bit stretchy, but it's expansive and you feel alive. And the stretch zone is where, you know, in that other model on the bottom right, they call that the learning zone because this is where all the learning takes place. And then if you go too far, if you stretch too far, you tip over into a panic zone. Overwhelm sets in, you know, you cannot do true learning, you cannot do true connection, you cannot really do much in the panic zone. So the implication is that the comfort zone's boring. And this model seems to think that you can learn in the panic zone, which I'm not sure I believe. I learned I didn't like scuba diving in the panic zone, but
Oh, me
apart from
too,
that,
Di. Yeah,
yeah,
that was the end of my scubaing experience as well.
it's nothing quite like feeling you're going to die to make you think,
Yeah,
no,
I'm
this is not for me.
in the panic zone.
Um, but what we want to do really is to talk differently about the comfort zone because, um,
Am I going to come to that now? You ready for this?
yeah, go on then.
Excellent. There we go.
So there is so much in the comfort zone. So in the comfort zone, are all the skills, abilities, practices, and achievements that we absolutely have under our belts. Things that we have learned and forgotten so many times over that we could just do with our eyes shut if it was required for us to do that. And it feels a bit to us like, do you remember the Tetris game? So you do all that stuff in Tetris. You put all those blocks together. You fit the blocks together so that they fit and they make a nice, neat line along the bottom. And then all your achievements, all your work just drops out of sight. It just drops out of your vision. You sort of metaphorically lose a sense of all of the things that you can do, all of the things that you can do in terms of skills and abilities. And the process of awareness is one of bringing these things back into your visibility, back into your line of sight, because it's in getting our heads around all of the things that we can do, that we know how to do, those skills, abilities, and practices that help us remember that we have all that personal mastery at our fingertips. And getting the skill of surrounding yourself by all those achievements is a really key part of building a practice of building our awareness. So I've lost my.
Well, what we're going to ask
That's all right.
to do
Yeah, no, go
now
on.
is, yeah, find your notepad and pen. If you haven't got one, take 2 minutes now to go and grab one. You can write on the back of an envelope and ask you
Mm,
to begin to list what is in your comfort zone. And this might be an interesting perspective from which to take a new look at this. which is imagine that a friend comes to visit you who isn't a horse person and starts getting involved with your horses. What things become suddenly apparent to you that I know how to do this? Oh, horse people, non-horse people don't know how to do this. So there are so many things that we, as Di described, I love the Tetris analogy, that are in our comfort zone, that drop out of sight, that therefore means we don't give ourselves any credit for it. We forget that we've done it. I mean, genuinely, when Di has been doing some coaching for me around business advice and just been asking me to write down the things that I have done in my life around my business, and you're suddenly like, oh yeah, I've forgotten I did that. Oh yeah, I did write a book. Like I did qualify in sports massage. All this stuff that I kind of forget about because it's in my comfort zone, it's in my Tetris blocks, and it's gone. When I see um, ladies driving 7.5 ton lorries, they've got three horses in the back, you think, flipping Henry, get on, girls. If you're a non-horse person, when I tell my non-horse friends about some of the stuff I do, they're like, what? That's wild, because within their lives, that would be so far into the panic zone. So I would just invite you to take a few minutes now to start to write down what are the things that are in your comfort zone that you've probably given yourself no credit for or not thought about for a long time. Do you know what knot you tie a horse up with that is a safety quick release knot? Do you know which way round you pick up the feet? You pick out your horse's feet. All stuff that have become so second nature to you that you give them no thought. But yet, if your non-horsey neighbour comes along, suddenly your horse is hard tied to a fence post and they're trying to scoop it out, their feet out with a trowel. Like there's all that stuff that we just take for granted. And therefore, as Di said, we forget to count it in our personal mastery. So, really, if you could just take a few minutes now to write it with thought, as in, this is a genuine practice to start developing your awareness and change how you view yourself and your ability to be able to become more of an agent of change in your own life.
So you might want to focus in on skills and practices that are in your comfort zone repertoire that relate to some of what you were talking about earlier on in the chat around an area of stuckness. Or you might want to just go for some general stuff. One of the key parts of resilience is a sense of personal mastery. It could be in anything. It could be you could be a classical flautist, but you having a sense of something that you're really good at is absolutely key to notions of resilience and going, yeah, do you know what? I can do that. I'm a really good mum, or I bake the best Victoria sponge sandwich anybody has ever heard or tasted. Those skills, those things that are in your repertoire are absolutely key. And we tend not to refer to when what we think is a new problem comes whistling past. We tend not to refer to um, all the things that we can do because they've already dropped out of sight, because our negative bias in our brain is looking for what we don't know or looking for what we haven't done yet. So we
So
have to be able to counter that by building our awareness of all the
Kate's
stuff we
saying
can
here,
do.
for
Mm.
instance, which I think is just what you said, Di, is all my accomplishments feel like a fluke, not really a skill. Me too. That was the thing before we started to do this, and Di, it was specifically we did this separate to this around my business, that I think I'm just winging it. I don't know what I'm doing. And then when you actually do this
Mm.
honest appraisal of what is in my comfort zone, you realize, oh,
Yeah.
that's because
Can
I
you,
actually know
yeah.
quite a lot of stuff.
And can you write them down without judging yourself poorly for them? It's a
Yeah,
really interesting question. It's like, yeah, just
exactly. So,
you've
and
got
so
them, you've
Rach is
got them,
saying,
girl.
by
Yeah.
comfort zone and how you're talking about it, I get the impression you mean it's our habits, skills we take for granted. I think that's what I don't know if you want to give another definition for what a comfort zone is considered to be in kind of learning theory.
Yeah, I think no, I think it's fine. I mean, I think I've done my 5 minutes on
Yeah,
theory,
okay.
so I'm not doing it anymore again. I mean, it's really about bringing them back into visibility because we tend not to. We literally just let them drop off. Yeah, and the judgment, Marion. Yeah, it is.
So here,
But
Alana's
you've
saying
got
straight
all
away,
those things. Yeah.
I tend to have an imposter syndrome when I think about what I'm good at. The list is small. So that's the thing, is to take away the personal story about it. Just write it down.
And
Like,
then, so write something down, and then it's what else? What else? What else? So write it down and move on to the next thing. So you're answering the question, what else is in there? You're not picking at it or poking at it. Just get it all down.
do you know how to clean tack? Do you know which way round a saddle goes on a horse? You know, all these things. When I first had a horse and a non-horse vet came out, they put the halter on the wrong way round. So, you know, there's stuff, he was a cow vet. I don't have a cow vet anymore. So there's things that we think, well, that's ridiculous. Of course I know that. Like people are already saying. But if you haven't learnt that skill, you don't know it. So as I really like Di's suggestion, just yeah, what next? What next? What next? What next? And yeah, if you want to share them, if you don't want to share them, just keep them for yourselves. So yeah, Caroline's saying being on a livery yard, everyone is doing the stuff I consider in my comfort zone, so it doesn't feel special or clever. That's why you need to write it down in this non-narrative based way. It's just objective. Just write it down.
So the whys for this are various and many. There's something about a practice of awareness of what you have in your repertoire, the awareness of your bank of achievements, your foundation of skills and knowledge and abilities and practices. I think having an awareness of that foundation is just multifaceted. And then what do you do? And then what do you do? You can take a little foray into the stretch zone from one of those places. You can reflect on all of those things and ask yourself, if I think differently about all the things that I can do, does that start to enable me to tackle the stuff that I tend to think I'm getting a bit stuck with? What if I started to look at this differently? What if I started to look at it through the prism of all the things that I do know? Because you just get a growing sense of, look at all this, look at me, look at what I can do. And why shouldn't you? You have invested so much, and this is what you can bring to the world and what you do bring to the world. So write it down. What else? What else? What else? If you notice yourself going, well, yes, I can reverse a trailer, but only if I've got like 56 meters. Cut off the but if only. Just focus on the achievements. You're building your repertoire. It's all your foundation for your practice and for what comes next. Awareness is key in all dimensions of this. If you Google quotes about awareness, you'll get some absolute classics and some corkers and some very big brains. So this is not about underestimating yourself at all.
Josie's just said, I feel like a show off when I do this, and so I'm loath to, I don't feel like sharing. Josie, in the most recent podcast, I haven't released it yet, that Kathleen and I did, we were talking about imposter syndrome. And this is my Achilles heel. Don't show off. Don't make big of yourself. Who do you think you are? It's very British, I think, as well, you know, like don't, and actually it's, it's all, I really have to think it's almost as self-obsessed. It's as somebody who does show off. Do you know what I mean? It's like actually they're just objective skills. You just do have those skills. And I have had to push through that story that I've got linked to that one, Josie, is it's like it's not showing off to be able to say, I know how to ask a horse to canter on both leads. You know, it's not showing off to be able to say, I
Yeah,
know. I mean, like, I think Nicola maybe is showing off a little bit, saying she can drive the JCB, but no, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's not showing off. It's just, it's the truth. She knows how to turn it on. She knows how the gears work. She knows how the levers work.
yeah,
But we have it so drummed into us that you mustn't. So therefore, not only do we forget about it through the Tetris effect, we push it down. Oh, no, no, no. But that's only, no, 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 don't be ridiculous. No, that's easy.
yeah.
And
And mums
yeah,
and
go on.
dads are showing up in the chat now, which is great because it's really nice to have them here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mums and dads and childhood experiences. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at its most basic, what we are asking you to do is to look at what you can do as the basis for starting to think about, can I unstick some of the ways in which I'm stuck? So you are self-managing, you're being efficient.
So,
You are you are mining your own foundation of knowledge and skills and abilities. And
but here I see, well,
just
Julie's
notice
doing
that
that
it's
classic
hard.
thing
Yeah.
straight away, Dive. Well, I have got these skills, but it doesn't count because without action, it doesn't count. And so it's
Ah,
that
right. Okay.
constant stop the butting.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
task is just write the stuff down. The
Yeah.
and or buts and if only that stuff you have to stop that. And that is a practice that you can develop. And it's where community and coaching can help you, isn't it? Because other people can help you to see that stuff.
Yeah. And the thing is, which bit of that piece of information is really important? You don't know yet. So if you've identified something and then dismissed it for another reason, you don't really know at this stage which bit of that you need, which bit of insight and awareness is going to be most helpful to you in terms of where you need to go next with it. So we're just writing it all down and trying not to dismiss it. It's a rich seam. And now, Kate, you're going to tell us about how you did this.
Yeah, I am. I'm just reading some of the things that people have put. Trust where my gut is. What about if in the past you've done lots of great things but no longer feel able to do the same with confidence? That's not the question, Harriet. The question is write the stuff down. So it's that's the thing is we've all everybody's getting into their and buts straight away. It's like the task was write the stuff down that you do know how to do. If you no longer have confidence about some of those things, then they may then be in your stretch zone, but there will be a lot of things in your comfort zone. I
Yeah,
can, people are already going for big stuff as
yeah,
opposed
yeah,
to I know how to pick up my horse's feet. I know how to lead a horse in from the field safely. It's where everybody's already trying to get into the, but it's big stuff. This is a lovely one. I always land softly in the saddle.
yeah,
It's, I think that's the thing is just try not to. And you need time for this to do this properly. On the course, we give people a week to kind of say, over the course of this next week, track what are the things that are in your comfort zone. So, Helen's put getting my horse out of a very tricky situation. I felt like a calm and determined leader, which is amazing. But those things, that's almost not really in your comfort zone, Helen, is it? What the skills that are in your comfort zone tend to be the I'm doing them all the time. You drew on those skills that were in your comfort zone in that tricky moment. But I think that's why if you take some time out of this webinar, it's not the big stuff, it's not the dramatic moments, it's not the things that are impressive to other people or to ourselves. It's all the small daily stuff. Yeah, being in the right space when I'm with my horse. I know how to properly tie a halter. I can observe stuff very well. I
yeah,
can clip a horse, that kind of thing. Ask a non-horse person to clip a horse and let's see how they get on. But because ask me how to clip a horse, I can clip a horse, whether it's then showing ready. I can trim my horse's feet. So I think it's that. Um, that if I can kind of convince a 17 hand sensitive sports horse that she does need her bandages changes despite hurting for 8 months. If you were to take this over the course of the next week, the comfort zone stuff is the stuff that you find easy, that you can almost do it in your sleep. And because of that, that's why it drops out of sight. So try not to look for the massive outstanding things that you can then put in your tick box. Try to acquire for yourself over the next week. This is how we develop our awareness. All of the things that you did that you didn't
yeah,
even really think about how you did them.
yeah. Knowing what's going on. I mean, that awareness, Rebecca, assessing my horse's needs, moods, well-being from a few seconds glance. Yeah. I mean, it's a superpower, isn't it? And
Yeah.
horse, you born from many, 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 many hours over many years of looking. But we absolutely know.
Mock out brilliantly. I have to say, Josie, when I go away to clinics with Nikki Stevens, that's where I realise that's not in my comfort zone because Nikki has to mock my stables out because I'm so bad at it. So yeah, but that's genuine. I'm like, how did she just do that? How did she come in there and in 5 minutes make that stable look like something that would go in horse and hound, where I've spent half an hour digging it out and turning it into something that looks slightly worse than when I started. So that is it's very much in her comfort zone. It's actually not in mine. So I'm going to give you an example of something that's happened to me recently. Some of you know, one of my horses is half Rocky Mountain horse, and all of Di's horses are all Rocky Mountain horses. And I bought a half Rocky Mountain horse because of one of Di's horses, who I liked so much, Desi. But I was promised that part bred Rocky Mountains don't gate, because I knew that I didn't want a gating horse, much as I know a lot of people love them for what I'm interested in, classical dressage. As Philippe Carl said, it's hard enough to ride three gates well, up to the level that I'm interested in riding at. So I was really clear about this. I said, okay, he won't gate, will he? No, 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 they don't gate. And then relatively quickly, I thought, this looks quite like a gating horse, actually. And so when I started riding him, I realized I was in trouble because in upwards and downwards transitions, and I'd made the mistake of being so delighted with gating out when we were out on the moor that I did it loads. Then when I actually started to school him more, I realized we were really becoming stuck, because through the transitions he was gating. And he was gating in a way that probably wasn't brilliant, particularly in the downwards transitions, really tightening his back and lifting his neck. In the upwards transitions, not so bad, but I knew I didn't want that. I wanted clean transitions between walk and trot for what I'm interested in doing. And so I got myself in quite a stuck mindset about this. Like, I don't know what to do about this. And what I did was not school him. I went through a real phase of, and also because he's got some physical problems, but I don't know what to do with this situation. I don't have the skills. And I knew that I wouldn't get the answer really from the gating community, because they're not interested in the kind of riding that I was interested in. So I was, oh, sorry, I have to put this up because otherwise it's pitch black in my house. I got to the point where I was about to send Sylvia Stossel, my teacher, a message to say, Sylvia, I don't know what to do. Please, can you make some suggestions? And then I just thought, before you do this, what are some things that you could at least try? Some things that are in your comfort zone that you know how to do pretty well, that you could at least give a go, so that by the time you do go to Sylvia to say, Sylvia, I don't know what I'm doing, please can you help? You'll at least be able to say, yes, I've tried this, this, and this. So I genuinely kind of had a sit down and thought, right, how would I solve some of the problems I'm experiencing if he wasn't a gated horse? How would I help him to move differently in more of a weight bearing posture with more of a released back? What do I know? And so I went out and started to experiment with a specific rain aid that you don't need to know if you don't know what it is. It's called action reaction. It's a rain aid that we learn in the School of Legerté, which provokes neck extension in horses. And the first time I tried it, LSR thought I had lost my mind, and it made everything a lot worse to start with. But I thought, okay, I'm trying to run a bit of an experiment here, so let's give it another go. On day 2, I thought, this doesn't feel any better. On day 3, I came out and he went, are you looking for this? And started to offer something that was much more in the direction of what I was looking for. And I mean, he's a good horse, I have to say. But day 4, he was like, oh, you just want me to go between trot and walk with no gating in between? Job done. So I went round I was stuck by the conundrum that I was facing. And my gut instinct, my greatest desire, was to contact somebody else and ask them the answer to my question. But I know as an instructor that you're always much more able to help somebody if they can tell you some of the things that they've tried. It's really difficult when people rock up and you say, what have you tried? And they say, oh, nothing really. I just know I've got this problem. I haven't tried anything. Sometimes that's fair enough, but very often I know them as a rider and I think, you know some stuff, you know what you're doing. Why haven't you tried any of those things? But I was very much about to do the same thing. And So that was an excellent experience for me. If I needed to go back into my comfort zone, I have ridden many horses and I've used action reaction with many horses. I know how to do it. I find it really easy. It's second nature to me. Because of that, I wasn't even considering it. It wasn't in my things I could try because it was like, oh, comfy old socks action reaction. I need some special new technique from Sylvia Stossel. She's going to give me the silver bullet, as opposed to going back and trawling through well, I do know this. I could have tried bending. I could have tried shouldering on a circle through the transitions. I could have tried changing how I was riding. Actually, there were lots of things I could have tried that were in my comfort zone, but that I wasn't even looking at because I thought it was a new and unique problem, which is very often where we find ourselves when we're looking at a situation thinking, this is impossible. There's no way I can work my way through this. It astounds me, people that I go to teach who dismiss how much they know, how much they've done, how much experience they've got, because they do exactly what I was doing. So, how can it astound me? It's human. But it's where we very often need the support of other people sometimes, or to develop a practice that means we can shortcut our usual, I'm overwhelmed by this, so I'm just not going to do anything, which is what I was doing. Studiously avoid that problem, go for a hack, or I'm immediately going to reach out to somebody else. Is there anything you want me to more to say about that, Di?
No, I'm getting antsy about people going to bed at some point.
Ah, no, hang on, we're all right. We've only got 4 more slides, Di.
Have we? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. No, we're good. Well, we've only got a few, yeah. So basically what I just described there was you have to try something. That's the big thing, is you have to try something. And that's what we've been talking to you about with regards to the silversmithing. You start to become a craftsperson. So we're not going to ask you to do this tonight, but this is your task to go away with, which is to think about something that you want to change and make it maybe small and specific rather than my whole life or my marriage or whatever. Think something around your horse. And then, having spent a bit of time outside of this, listing your comfort zone repertoire, all of the things, not just the things that you think are big and impressive, all of the things. Look at your comfort zone and think, how could I use some of the knowledge, experience, awareness, insight that I have in my comfort zone to take a micro step like I did? I didn't try and do canter transitions out on the moor. I was in the school on a horse that I believed to be pretty safe, walk trot transitions. I was going to try something within, it was a fairly rock solid micro stretch. The worst that was going to happen was I'd stop. And then you're going to notice what happened without judgment. Did it get better? Did it get worse? So that's your takeaway thing to try after this, but you have to spend time first listing things that are in your comfort zone, all of the things, because that's what you need to rootle around in, like I had to come out with maybe I'll try action reaction. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So we've talked on and off a lot about coaching as a part of becoming unstuck. And just to say a little bit more about it, because for me, coaching as a process and as an art really is key to some of the learning, some of the developing, growing awareness, deciding what steps to take next, growing and developing yourself as you go. But I think what we need to do is think of it as a process of as a type of conversation, a structured conversation that you can have, with your instructor or with your friends, or with your friends at the livery yard, or with yourself even. And yes, you could get a coach, But the process of coaching and the art and the benefit of coaching really is available to all of us. You don't need to get a coach. You can learn to coach yourself and you can learn to have that structured coaching conversation. And through learning and practicing, it's key to having a much more structured conversation with yourself where you will catch yourself wandering off or going down the rabbit hole or the excuse that you always pull for. And you will go, that's really interesting. And you will catch yourself being unkind to yourself and berating yourself. And you can do something else with that emotion. And it's a practice and it's a part of the silversmithing. So we just wanted to be really clear that that's the coaching that we are talking about, the process, the art, the conversational coaching process, rather than what you need to do is get a coach, because it's not that. It's not that at all. But it is, we believe that in that human interaction is really key to helping to navigate your way through some of these sticky patches.
So the reason that I became so interested in coaching, and I won't spend very long on this, Di, I promise, is
Right.
because I realized that the way I was teaching did not reflect the way I was teaching myself at home. So was teaching using the model of teaching that we are all given in the equestrian industry. Here is some information. I'm going to give it to you. You do it. And then I realized one of the reasons that I think I have been able to make relatively rapid progress, actually, from somebody who was very much a leisure rider with one horse over the course of a decade, really, to riding quite a lot of horses, and I think having quite a lot of insight around horses now, is because of skills that I had that didn't come from the equestrian world, that came from other places that were coaching. And that's what I was doing for myself at home, was running this constant, I think because I had worked in education, particularly special education, which I think is a kinder place than mainstream education. How do you support your own learning? How do you ask questions of yourself? How do you interrogate what's going on and then work out what to do next, rather than waiting for an instructor to come along? But yet, I was being, until relatively recently, the instructor that came along to tell you, do this, do this, do this. And then going back and wondering why that person hadn't felt equipped or confident or competent to be able to take control of their own learning between when I went and then when I saw them next. And that is, as those of you who saw me last year know, one of the reasons that I decided I've got to stop doing clinics and take a step back and think about a better way to support the human side of the relationship. Pretty good at supporting the horse side of the relationship, but the human side of the relationship, to say, okay, how can you continue to grow up as an adult rider? How can you become more responsible for your own learning and start to become less concerned about making mistakes, more experimental, more confident that you can give things a go? So that's why I have been drawn into the world of coaching rather than just what I have done, which is instruction giving.
So of all the slides we've shown you so far, this is the one that Kate and I have talked about most. And I won't take you through the painful story of this slide. The thing that I want to really emphasize is that there is a question in all of this that I think we always need to ask ourselves, which is, whose work is this? So if I am going to unstick myself, whose work is it? If I'm going to try and become unstuck and stay unstuck, who needs to do what? And we've moved from a silversmith to a weaver at the top of the slide. And I absolutely believe that it is my work when I'm stuck with my horses, as I am from time to time. It is my work to continually build my awareness of what is going on for me, for him, in my situation. It is my work to be curious. I've got to rock up with the curiosity about that gives the energy behind it. It is my work to experiment, to try something, as Kate's just been saying. It is my work to practice. It is my work to try and develop that sort of mastery in whatever bit I'm doing so that I can do it well and smoothly. And it's also my work to bring ideas and expertise and support and insight and get feedback from outside of myself. So I'm doing all this work, or I'm telling myself that I have all this work that I can do. And I have at my disposal a bank of support, a container of support to hold me and support me as I'm doing this. And in that is expertise and community and people who would support me. Um, but I mustn't give my work to those people.
Is that what you mean about outsourcing your work?
Exactly. You can't outsource it. It's really good not to do it alone. And so having a bank of support, I think, is vital. So use your set of mentors and your experts and have a great team around. But don't give your work away to somebody else to do because they can only do it their way. They can't do it in a way that would suit you and fit you. And it generally doesn't fit you when they give it back. So the key thing is with any element of this, I think, is just don't outsource what is yours to do to somebody else, even if they might on paper know more about the situation than you feel that you know about the situation. And this double-headed arrow in the middle of that is that the way of transferring this stuff, I think, is about using coaching conversations, using deliberate learning, like the cycle that Kate just showed you that goes the wrong way around, um, and and mentoring. So you're getting information from people who know much more about the situation ostensibly than you do, but it's your situation and it's your work. So own your work and use your container of support, but don't outsource it to somebody else. Because I think that is how people get stuck because it doesn't feel right when it comes back. It doesn't feel like the right thing to do.
And I think that is particularly difficult for us in the age of social media,
Mm.
and so taking responsibility for uh, that expertise and community is really important. That not everybody should be in that box, and that probably means most of Facebook. So look, I told you we're almost at the end. So do you want to just talk back to this lovely Mary Oliver quote again?
Um, yeah, so I mean, we are really, we are slightly overexcited about this because we we know it is useful and helpful and hopeful. Um, because there can't be a one size that fits all because we are just all so different and so individual, and so are all our horses. And the combination, the wonderful complexity of combinations between ourselves and our horses and who's around us and our situations and what we want to do with our one wild and precious life, that it really only makes sense that we find a way forward for each of us and do it in community with other people. And we are slightly overexcited about this, but that's not such a bad thing to be, is it? And we know that not everybody will be able to join us in February when we run the course, and we know that it might not be the right time for you to join and take the journey now. But we hope that some of what we've been able to share with you tonight has started a process of thinking for you that will help to support you as you go forward. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to looking back at all of the chat. We did promise ourselves, didn't we? In fact, this was the late runner. We do really need to say something about what's in the course, don't we?
Yes, because we forgot that bit. Because we're so excited about, look, there's all these ideas, but that, yeah, actually, if you are interested in the course, this is what you get in it. Um, I think it's probably got more face-to-face contact and direct support than any other online course I've come across. Um, each time we run the course, we can only have a maximum of 15 people, but we will run it again. So don't panic. And like Di said, this might not be the time for you. And you might think, actually, this isn't the way I want to get unstuck, but it has prompted me to think about this. During the course of the 10 weeks that you spend with us, you learn skills to coach yourself and to coach other people. You work in coaching groups. Obviously, the focus is on our horses. So that's what we are looking at. It's not generalized coaching about other things in your life. It is specific to horses. We do lots of deep dives into different practices that we can start to familiarize ourselves with. And we share with you quite a lot of tools. You will run an experiment with your own horse, and you don't need to be riding your horse to be doing this during the course of the 10 weeks. And throughout that, the last time people found out a lot. Some of them made some very big decisions based on that. I share with you the learning processes that I go through with my horses, which hopefully will inspire you to realize that everybody is having to come unstuck on a daily basis. That, it's even if you're doing it as a job, you're not working things out continually. And there are lots of different ways that you can access the content. So we meet as a group. You get access to a podcast. There's lots of videos, that kind of thing. And this time, what we're adding in that's different, and we're going to run the coaching sessions differently than last time. So, but you also get a coaching session with Di and a mentoring session with me, and there is an option to add more. But as Di said, this might not be the time for you for the actual course, but it might be. And I always think, if the time isn't now, then when is it? But even if it's not now, I hope that you might think about the couple of tools that we've given you today that are genuinely useful. It's what I have been using to help myself become unstuck when I've been problem solving. You'll have access to the recording if you want to go back over this afterwards. And we will send everybody a brochure with details about the course and the prices in it. But all of you will be able to go back over this and use this, even if you don't join us on the course. So I don't know if I can see any more chat. Do you want to add anything to that, Di?
Sally Ann, are all the sessions on a Tuesday at 7? I don't know. It's a very good question.
Yes, they are. They are. If that's bad, they are. The sign up is opening. The course opens. The sign ups start from tomorrow, so that you will be open to join us as of tomorrow. But it doesn't actually start till February the 6th. So we just thought that gave people a bit of time, and all of the all of the interactive group sessions are on Tuesdays, but there are coaching sessions which are not on Tuesdays. They're organized separately for the different groups, and the personal coaching session that you get with Di and the mentoring session that you get with me is to be organized for your time. So, do you think this would be beneficial when the human is fairly physically benefit? Do you think this would be more beneficial for a time when the human is more physically able? I think that's probably a question for yourself. I don't believe there is ever a time in your life where understanding yourself better, developing your awareness of being alive, which is actually what this is, and learning how to problem solve is ever not useful. And last time we had people who couldn't ride their horses for a variety of reasons, who were trying to work through questions they had for themselves. So they were maybe running an experiment. One person, I would like to buy a new horse, I think. I'm stuck. I've been thinking about buying a new horse for a very long time. So she didn't even have a horse when she started. She was trying to work out, do I want one? Is this a good time to have one? And so her experiment was to explore that. She didn't realize that when she started, but it was. But her stuckness was, I've been thinking about getting a horse for a long time. I can't work out whether I should or not. So I would almost say, if you feel like you would like to know yourself better and develop some skills about knowing yourself and living and being with horses a bit better, there almost isn't a bad time. But if now isn't the time, then we will run it again, I promise, because I love it.
We have had people in different time zones on the last course.
Yeah.
We had North America, New Zealand. It brings its challenges for people. It depends if you're good at getting up early, staying up late. But yeah, we did that last time, so it gets pretty international. So you please feel free to sort of keep any questions coming when you get the brochure. If you want to ask more questions, then that is great. Um, we'd be happy to answer them. And just thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for engaging so amazingly. Um, it's been really good. Looking forward to looking at all the chat and seeing where we go next.
Absolutely. And yeah, please do use those two tools. I
Please do.
promise you it will change how you go about things with your horses. I promise it will. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And we may see some of you on the actual course, but I will send the recording out to everybody over the next few days so you can revisit this if you would like. But thank you very much for sharing your Tuesday evening with us. Lovely to see you all. And
Thank
take care.
you.
Look after yourselves. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Thanks, everybody. Bye.